Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the September 17th, 2020 meeting of the Dover School Board. If you'd please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. Thank you. Mrs. Allman, could we have the roll call, please?
Mrs. Britton here. Mr. Cook.
Here.
Mr. Deschaux.
Here.
Mr. DeLauder.
Here.
Mr. Eifert.
Here.
Mr. Emig.
Here.
Mrs. Herman.
Here.
Mrs. Maley. Here. Mr. Rawhauser.
Here.
9 present.
Okay, thank you. Just a reminder for everyone speaking tonight, when you are speaking, you may remove your mask and speak directly into your microphones. So make sure that you have them pulled closely to you so that those within the room can hear you, as well as those that are watching on the video stream hear you clearly as well. So with that, we'll start off with our online blended instruction presentations from our technology coaches.
So before they begin, let me explain how we got here. So when we realized last spring that we might be in this situation for a while and that we might need to do blended instruction, I asked for a group of volunteers to help give their time this summer and work to create our online blended instruction model. And we had a number of teachers who did so. And out of these teachers, our 3 media specialists up here really took a lead with how we were moving forward with online blended instruction. We started with nothing, and these 3 people helped to create a model that is going to grow all year. We know we're just starting it, but I want you to introduce yourselves when I'm finished because they know who you are. But I need to tell you, we could not have done what we did without these 3 people. We could not have offered parents the opportunities. We could not have social distanced the way we are, and not knowing what's going to happen this year. These 3 people truly are heroes right now, and I want to say it again. They gave up their summer. They literally gave up their summer for this district. So without further ado, I will let you introduce yourselves.
It's an excellent introduction. I'll start by saying I'm Matt Eckenroth, and I was formerly the library media specialist, and this new role has definitely been exciting. It's interesting. It's had a lot of different feels to it. But the big thing is about the team. And I think as we go through talking about the students, the parents, the staff, it's all about the team, putting this team together, working with these 2 ladies pretty much hand in hand. I have like new wives or like double work wives and things like that. So it's like my wife's like, who are you talking to? I'm like, I'm on with them. But it's been fun working with them, and it's been a challenge. But I'd like to show you some of the things that we've put together to hopefully make it, I think it has made it easier for the parents. I think it's made it easier for the teachers. There's a lot of work to be done yet, but that's why we're constantly trying to stay one step ahead. So we'll go through a little presentation that we have here. How do we get started? Obviously, someone decided to just put a great team together. So once we got going, we just said, how are we going to work this? What do we need to do for the students? What do we need to do for the parents? What do we need to do for the staff? And that's kind of how we broke down our entire presentation tonight. So to get started, the students, obviously, they need to learn the general blended learning expectations, the expectations of their teachers, and students are able to access expectation documents throughout the year. So we've done a lot of creation where these kids can go see this physically so they can read it and know exactly what we're expecting of them as a school district. The staff, we've asked them to join the EdTech Schoology course. That is just a course that is filled with information to help train, to read through the expectations, trainings, and in the blended learning folder that has been created in our Schoology course. And then for the parents, and I think this is the one that really speaks volumes, because I think it is a place that has really allowed the parents to go and feel a little bit more comfortable to start. And I will click into that, but we created a blended learning, a parent's guide, which is kind of like a one-stop shop. And it is just filled with anything and everything you need. So in this site that was sent out to all the parents, because our big push was, let's over-communicate. We got to make sure we get them as much information and in many different ways as we can. The principal sent out a lot of the same information. We've sent it out in many different ways to the students, to the parents, and it's just, let's over-communicate. That's been pretty much our motto. Any tutorials, troubleshooting, student login guides, what is blended learning? So it really just explained it from the very basics. I'm not going to read everything for you. This has been sent out to everyone, and most people have looked through all the steps. What should I be doing? What should my child be doing? How do we communicate? All the important forms, anything that you could possibly need, the acceptable use policies, the guidelines for the iPads, everything is here. It's a one-stop shop. And then at the top, we break into Seesaw, because our two LMSs, Seesaw and Schoology, is where we need everyone to be comfortable with. That's the most important thing that's going to make blended learning work, is being comfortable with our two learning management systems. And we have our whole Seesaw page. We've got a Schoology page with all sorts of information to help the parents, because we want to make sure that the parents feel comfortable that this is happening, that they're getting the best education that they can get. Also, we have information about Skyward, very important with their grading, and going in and finding all the different things that they need to do with that. And then pretty much all of the apps, we kind of tried to break down, what are they going to need? It's from very basics. We just kind of said, how are you going to set up your emails, what the app portal is. We tried to make it as simple as possible, just to make it nice and easy, one stop. And then all the classroom resources, we tried to break it down by levels. We had the elementary level with the different activities and icons and programs that we're using throughout the elementary. We had our middle school level, and then also what we're going to be doing at the high school, some of the areas that they'll need to know. So that took a lot of work. It's not just the three of us here. We had a blended learning committee that met all summer. We had a blended learning for Seesaw. We had a blended learning for Schoology. We then would meet back together and put this all together. So it's not the three here. It is a lot of people that have bits and pieces into this program, but it's something that I believe we're all pretty proud of, that's been created. So, getting back to the presentation. How are the blended classes structured? Students access their lessons via the learning management systems. Like I stated before, K to 2 is using Seesaw, 3 to 12 is using Schoology. This allows us to pre-record content videos, or we can live with Zoom links, and all the activities are provided for the students right there in those LMSs. What's the staff? They doing? How are they structuring this? Designing their lessons. We're housing everything in those two LMSs, which provide live instruction for the students and allow for the APL format. And then the parents, what are they going to see? Well, they're going to see limited. They'll see limited. They're not going to see exactly what the students are seeing on their end, unless they want to get into their students' information. But they're going to see the assignments. They're going to see due dates, so they can stay on top of their students, on top of their kids, to make sure things that are getting done. But they won't be able to see any work of other students, which is very important. So, how is the content being accessed? And that's where our two Seesaw and Schoology gurus come into play. So I'm going to hand it off to Corey. I think she's going to talk a little bit about Seesaw.
Okay, so we have spent a lot of time making sure that our staff feels comfortable with our learning management systems. So we have created 2 different training sites. I'm going to be talking about Seesaw today. I'm going to talk about the Seesaw training site. And we've really reached out and used Google Sites. I think it's teachable moment. I think it's a fantastic resource if you haven't used it already. Google Sites is awesome. But we made a Seesaw training site for our staff, and then we also created, is it me? Is it like talking too loud? we've also worked within Seesaw to train our staff as well. So I'm going to start off by showing you the training site. I think it's my phone. I don't need notes. So we kind of went through and we're thinking, like, what does the staff need to know? So we added, like Seesaw has really great training resources, so we really didn't need to reinvent the wheel. It was really just a curation of resources for us and what I felt that our staff would need to be successful. So we did have a lot of different links in here for APL, then there's the Seesaw Help Center, and over on the side, I started to create different pages. We also are I'm working on a page that hasn't been published, and it is geared towards substitutes and how substitutes will access the information. We're still working through that. But this would be a spot for potentially substitutes could use as well to learn how to use our systems. So we went through on this training site, it's the basics of how do I log into to Seesaw, and this again is just for staff. This isn't necessarily for parents to be looking at. They could if they wanted to, but it is geared towards staff so that they know how the students would go, how they use Clever to get into it. I've created different documents that staff could send out to parents because, again, we're trying to make this easier for the staff as well. So we're trying to create documents that can easily be, like a teacher can be like, oh, let me just grab that document here to answer that question. So I do have some of those on here, but this is just a training site for all the little pieces, any videos that we saw that were really helpful from Seesaw that the teachers could just go and be like, oh, this is a good video, instead of going out and being like, can I go on Google and find someone who's a good resource? So it's really just a curation of those resources. Then we also did a Seesaw training site. So one thing that you want to kind of think about when you're learning a new learning management system is that you should really do your trainings within that learning management system. So we did create a K2 demonstration course. Oops, I think it's up here. So teachers over the summer had the opportunity to join this course. And within this course, we created different activities to help them learn about Seesaw and how they could see it from a student perspective. So up here, you can have different types of Seesaw courses. I am a teacher, I am an admin, and I am a student. And you have all those different options. So teachers can do a teacher class and have their own assigned curated class through Clever. And they can also have a practice class that they've created to explore and experiment in, but then they can also join as a student, so it can be used as a training tool. So they had the opportunity to go through this summer and create and do the different activities. We would post activities to help them feel more comfortable with the APL requirements that we would have. So I'm going to show you what it would look like from a student perspective. So this is what a student would see. So just to give you a general overview, if you haven't experienced Seesaw from the student side, we have 3 options that our kids will use. We have the inbox, you have the activities, and you have the journal. So our teachers, as we are using the APL format, they are sending out their agenda daily by 8:40 a.m., and it is an announcement, and it goes to the student's inbox. So when a student, this is an older class, but when a student clicks on their inbox, then they see agendas, they might see their Zoom meeting, they will see what they're expected to do for the day. And that goes out every day. They can then click on the activities and see what activities I need to do. This one has a lot of activities, ignore that number. But you can see that Seesaw is making updates all the time for the betterment of our students because it has recently split it up into 3 different options. So if they click on to do, they can see what they need to currently complete. If they didn't finish it, they can have an in progress section, so they can have the opportunity to save as a draft. And then they can also go into their done files, and they have a chance to respond and resubmit as needed. When a student finishes their activities, it goes into their journal. And journal is also a place for a student to have the opportunity to be creative and send a message to their teacher if they would like. Teachers can set it up so that other students can see each other's work. It might be like that right now if you have a child at home that you can see other students right now. As we start going into more content-related items, they will turn that off. So you won't be able to see each other's work, but for now, as far as like building that level of community and knowing your other classmates, they're still gonna see those things. It's super fun, super easy to use because anyone can do this. This is a student perspective, and they can go in and do, my favorite is a drawing, and they can do a photo here, they can add a video, they can add a voice response, and again, we're focusing on our K2 learners. And our K2 learners might not be able to write, but you bet your money they can make a video, and they can do a real great selfie. My first grader at home can certainly do a really great selfie and decorate it, and so can my fourth grader. So this Seesaw is really great for our younger friends because then they're able to have that level of feeling like they've gotten through to it, that even if they can't type the words. So they can submit it, and there's that draft option. So that's kind of just like a basic, you'll see this in a lot of different formats. Now this is a blank one, but teachers will be able to go in and create an activity, almost like a Google slide, but the students can manipulate the different components of the activity. So if they need to draw on something, or they're moving letters around, they're doing some matching activities, and they're really manipulating the content. It has a lot of freedom for that within Seesaw, and it's really great. They can draw on the screen. There's a lot of opportunities to really respond in the best way for them. So I really like it for that matter. Okay. Are there any questions on Seesaw? Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so I'm guessing that you rely on parents being there because little ones can't read.
Well, that's
Unless
that is an excellent point. No, let me tell you. So, thank you for bringing that up. Let me go back here. Teachers are actually able to post a lesson, and when they post their lessons, they're going to be able to post a video with it. So if I go into activities, you can see right here it says play instructions. So we are asking the teachers to try to post the directions as well. So they're going to be writing the directions out, but they can record their voice in the directions. So we're also reaching those kiddos at home who might not know your teacher yet, but we want to make sure that they can hear them so they can get to know their teacher a little bit better. So they can, in fact, record the instructions. They can post videos within the activity of themselves teaching, getting to know each other. So even if the student can't read, they are still able to understand the directions.
Okay, that's great. Okay, and then my other question is this. Okay, so if are we still using everyday math?
Yes, we are.
Yes, okay, and then do they still have
Mrs. Herman,
workbooks? How does
Mrs.
that
Herman, could you pull your microphone closer to you so those that are watching
Yep.
online can hear you better? Thanks.
So how does that work if they have a workbook at home? Okay, so tonight I found out that I thought this was a scripted program when I heard
Okay.
Seesaw, but I was told that it's not, and the teacher makes up the whole program. Okay, so if they're doing everyday math and they have a workbook for everyday math lessons, then how does that work? I mean, do they take a screenshot or something and send it back to the teacher?
There's electronic components to everyday math. There are websites that go along with that, and
Right.
they log into those. If they were going to use the workbook, I mean, potentially they could they can put a picture and they can upload that to this document. Teacher and the kiddos can just write on the document and turn it in if they wanted to.
So it is teacher maintained as far as grades and correcting those worksheets as screens, whatever, it
It's all,
goes back to.
teacher has to, when the student submits it, then the teacher gets it and they can respond to it and put comments in to give the student feedback. Seesaw isn't like Schoology and like you can assign grades. It's not a grade thing.
Oh,
So there's
okay.
no grading within that. That would be a separate component like within the teacher's grade book.
Okay, so do you have any idea, like with kindergartners, how they're learning to write stories and use their own spelling and everything? That's also available? Do they have like a type?
Yeah, so it depends on what the teacher puts into the student template. They can say type here, and when they go in, the kiddo pushes the T and the little text box comes up, and when you're on the iPad, automatically the keyboard comes up and they
Okay.
can type.
Okay.
Or they can, if the teacher wants you to try writing. So a lot of the students do have styluses. And they do the letter tracing, so it just depends. They can import, there's actually a huge community library, and then we also have a school and district library where kindergarten teachers across the district put things in there, and then other kindergarten teachers can use it, so they're collaborating a lot with this, so it's really great for that. But there's people like out in the world that have put things in, so. Okay. I think that's everything about Seesaw. Yes. Okay. So now I'm Corey Houlihan. Sorry.
Hello, I'm Samantha Helwig. I'm the library media specialist at the high school, and this year I'm working with grades 7 through 12, but really anybody in the middle school. So middle school, high school, everything people need. So I'm going to go over just briefly about our Seesaw, our Schoology stuff. So when you may not have seen Schoology before, but this is what Schoology looks like from the teacher side. So in Schoology, this is our educational technology page that we've created to help teachers. It has resources, it has professional development, it has videos, it has almost anything they could ever possibly want to see about educational technology. For this year, we created the Blended Learning folder here at the top. And this Blended Learning folder gives teachers everything they're going to need to know about the year. It tells them what their expectations are, what our expectations for the students are. It provides professional development, a place for them to ask questions, and it provides other documents, other videos, anything we found that would be helpful for the teachers for this year. So yes, Schoology is a bit different than Seesaw. It's not quite as colorful, not quite as fun, but it does do everything and more that we need it to do. So for teachers this year, to help simplify things, because Schoology can get a little bit crazy, to help simplify things, we created an example course organization for them. So we asked all teachers to organize their courses by week, and then within that week, they'll post the day's assignments. Within that weekly folder, they did have the option to choose to post Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, or they could have posted for the whole week at a time. So we did leave teachers a little freedom there. So if you look at the example course organization here, this is what a general Schoology course would look like. So it would start with some general information, anything the teacher has to say about their own course, and then it breaks down by week what the students would be doing. So this one would be broken down by day and leaves room for questions and enrichment at the end. So should they choose to break their course down by day, this is what one of those folders would look like. So within the weekly folder, you'd have instructions and announcements for the week, and then you would have folders for each day that contain our APL components, our agendas, our bell ringers, our closures for the day, any assessments, any work that the students need to be doing. From the student perspective, things look a little different on their iPads. It's a much more simplified version, but I can give you a general idea of what it looks like here. The biggest thing you'll see right now is that all of my options on the side went away. So students are limited with what they have. They can access their materials, their updates, their grades, if they master anything, and members of the course. So it's very limited, but you'll see that the content pretty much stays the same for all students. Again, the iPad, it looks slightly different here. It's a mobile version, so this is the computer version. It's a little limited, but it gets the job done for whatever we need. So if we go back, we also created a Schoology training site. So we spent a lot of time creating this. It walks teachers through every single component of Schoology, everything they could ever possibly want to know about it. You can come down here to this picture and click, say, I want to learn more about what the courses button does. It'll take you to a page on courses. It gives them videos, it gives them articles, and it gives them common troubleshooting. So for this one, help my course is missing, something that happens at the beginning of the year. So just things that we need to know for Schoology, and this is quite extensive. I won't go over everything here, but we did provide the links and everything in the meeting minutes, so please feel free to go ahead and look through any of this, any of the material we have for you. So this is our stuff on Schoology. Does anyone have any questions about Schoology?
Question.
Okay.
So is it easy enough for third grade, and yet does it progress? In other words, is it basic across the curriculum for third the whole way up to 12? Because that's a really big span.
It is.
Yeah, for one program. So.
Yes, this program is adaptable across the curriculum. This comes down to is how well it's organized, and that's why we provided those guidelines for teachers. Okay, organized by week. That makes it a little more user-friendly, especially for our younger, as Corey calls them, friends. I love that. especially for our younger friends, but then we can progress. There are all kinds of different materials. It's all teacher built, so they could scaffold up whatever they need to. We can make it as complicated or as simple as we need to, which is what I really like about it. So.
Thank you.
Just a little more for you.
And so our next thing was, what are the expectations? What are the kids' expectations? What are we expecting out of kids? What are we expecting out of the staff? What are we expecting out of the parents? Sorry. So we just made, obviously, for the younger kids, we wanted something a little cuter. So we just have something like, it's really the basics. We need to make sure that one of the biggest things that we keep pushing is that with this blended learning and coming in, you gotta have that iPad charged. And I think that goes out every day. I think that's said probably 30 times a day. Make sure you charge that iPad. Bringing your iPad to school every day. Logging on, learning how the Seesaw and Schoology work. Do you have Zooms today? We didn't really talk about a lot about those, but those are placed right in the Schoology and Seesaw courses. So like whatever the student's going to, we're able to push that link right for the Zoom. So if the students are working at home or whether they're in the classroom, it's a one place to go, click on it, and boom, we're up with our Zoom. Obviously it looks a little bit more robust here now for the older kids. It's really the same language. We just made it look a little bit cuter for those younger kids. But it's the same type of thing. It doesn't matter if you're a kindergartner or a 12th grader, we need that iPad charged. Probably the most important thing, and don't forget it. As for the staff, the expectations kind of go throughout the district, what's expected, and there are major expectations. Our blended learning expectations, which we talked a little about earlier, making sure that we're using that APL format when doing our blended learning and using our resources. Make sure you use those resources. We just keep telling the teachers, we put a lot of time, a lot of people put a lot of time and effort into creating those resources. It's a great place to go look when you have that quick question. And those are the things that we use when we get those emails coming in. Hey, we'll get the exact page link, shoot it right out to the teacher, say this is a great place that you can go find the answer. And then pretty much the same thing for the staff here at the upper grades, making sure when it's going to be in, like we talked about, when all the lessons have to be in, the agendas in the morning. And then it always comes back to that parent's guide to blended learning. When a parent has a question, hopefully they've checked there first. And we've had a lot of questions, but I think we've had a lot less questions because of this guide. So we're still working some parents through. It's not going to get everyone, but I can tell you I think it took a lot of off our plate having that learner's guide out there for them to get through blended learning. Oops, I don't need to click it again.
So clearly communication is going to be a really big component of the blended learning format, as well as just any regular school day. Excuse me. But for students, we're expecting that the students are able to Zoom to their classes. We're expecting that if there's an office hour provided by your teacher and you have a question, we would hope that the student would go and take the initiative, take ownership, and go to that office hour. And that's more at the older grade levels. We're also expecting that students will, again, take ownership and email questions to teachers if they have it. Within Schoology, they are able to send a message directly. So the student can send a message. They can email as well. They can set up email on their iPad. There are tutorials on our blended sites for doing that. Even the younger friends can set up email, and they can email their teachers. So we are hoping that they are able to do that. So the teachers will probably have a preferred method of communication. I know in Seesaw there is a family app, and the families would have to download that onto their phones, but the teachers can give them a code to connect. So if you haven't, if you're a K2 parent out there and you want to connect, just send your teacher an email if they haven't given you that access code and you're interested in doing Seesaw Families. Just contact your teacher via email and they can give you that code. But students in Seesaw, for students to communicate with their teacher, it's a little trickier, but they can post journal entries, and that would be like a direct line of contact to their teacher. Teachers can comment on their student work, and then students can comment back as well to communicate with any issues they might have with their assignments.
For our staff piece for communication, teachers had the freedom to choose how they wanted to communicate with their students and their families. We asked that they picked a primary and a secondary method of communication. They could choose between just regular old email and phone calls. They could do Remind, Schoology messaging, Skyward, Seesaw, anything that we have for them. Parents should have received an email or some sort of communication at the beginning of the year stating what the teacher's preferred contact method was. And our expectation for teachers is that they are responding within 24 hours of the original email during normal school hours, normal working hours for any communication they receive. So I do believe that's it. I apologize we ran over a bit here. There's just so much we want to tell you about. So if you have any questions, anything, that's all we have for you.
Any questions?
One of the things we heard from parents in the spring when we were home is that we were all over the place. Like shaking their head, we were all over the place. We heard it from daycare centers all the way up to, parents with people who worked with kids in different buildings in the same grade were having completely different experiences. And that was the goal of all of this. And so their lesson, what teachers are expected to do in a class is the same, whether you're in kindergarten or 12th grade. They all have to do a bell ringer, they have to do a lesson, they have to do a summarizer. So that is across the board. And these courses are set up that the teacher just needs to jump in and create their lessons. And teachers given flexibility in it to a point. But our goal was when a student went on to Schoology, they saw their whole day there, or Seesaw, they saw their whole day. And every teacher then bought into that. And I think we've done a really great job. This is new, and we have a long way to go, and we know we do. But I got to tell you, I'm so pleased with as far as we are. I haven't heard complaints, and they are right. I will get parents going, I don't know how to do it. The link to their parent guide, I think every principal has put it underneath their tagline. I just sent it to the parent and say, check this out first and let me know, and I have never heard back from them. So the three of them and the team around them, we put a team together this summer as a district team, and there was a representative from each building, and then they went back and had a building level team. So teachers had opportunities from right after the 4th of July through the entire summer to work with all of this, even when it was work in progress, and they would tell them, not quite there yet. So I feel really good, and it's just only going to get better as the year goes on. So I can't thank these three enough. They have done a phenomenal job. We could not have done it without it, and they're all awesome.
Any questions?
Yeah, I don't know how much of this we really need to know as board members, but trying to wrap my head around how this whole thing's working with students who are in the classroom, with students who are at home on the AB schedule, and with those that are spending 100% of their time at home. I really don't have a concept of how this all works. And I mean, some of the questions I would have are like if a student's part of a classroom and the days that they're in school, they're part of this classroom. The days they're not there, do they join in online at the exact same time as what they would be in that classroom if they were here?
So the teacher does all of their planning for their class in either Schoology or Seesaw. If you're K2, it's Seesaw. If you're 312, Schoology. All your lesson plans, activities, worksheets, documents are in Schoology. So when the teacher is sitting in front of a class of 7 kids and 3 are at home, if they're starting with a Zoom, which is live, the link is in Schoology and everyone gets on. That's actually how we take attendance, okay? They all get on the first thing in the morning, they all Zoom and get together. Then there might be a video, say, that the teacher is going to be a math lesson. At that time, the students sitting in the classroom might open their iPad and do it, or the teacher might do it, and the kids at home will watch the video. And then there might be seat work to do, and they'll do it. So the student at home might not be actively engaged at that time in the class, but all the work follows the exact same format. And then the student might come back at the end of maybe they do another Zoom. So everything is in Schoology, everything. So whether the kid's in front of them, at home, coming in and out, everything's in Schoology. We're not passing out papers. We really use very few textbooks because the Everyday Math does have an online, all those worksheets are online. So the students live. Now, it's hard because as teachers, we're taught you to work in groups and talk to each other. But in the COVID world now, and I know people don't want to hear it, but we're masked and we're on our iPads. It is the safest way to be right now. And everything is there, whether you're sitting in front or sitting at home. But I will tell you, more and more parents are seeing, I think, through Zoom, that kids are sitting in class, masked up, it looks safe, they're social distance, and are coming back. And are coming back.
The kids are doing a phenomenal job.
Kids are doing great.
They have no problem. You just say like, oh, do this, and if it's below their nose.
Yeah. Oh, they're
and
great.
they go right for it, and they're like, okay. And
Yeah,
like, it's
yeah.
nothing for them. And like we're in elementary all day, and they're just like, okay, and they do their
Yeah.
distancing. Like it's really great.
Yep.
So the students then that are on the 5-day online instruction, they're still part of that classroom and
Yes.
they're still checking in
Yes.
at the same time
Yes.
as well.
Yes.
It's not a do it whenever you work it
Yes.
into your schedule. They
Yes.
have
Now,
to be doing
I
it.
mean, there's work posted that they could check in and go outside and play for a little bit and come back later and do the work. But I think they're getting used to the routine of the day and knowing what needs to be done and handed in. And remember, each teacher is in contact with that class. So for an elementary class of 16 kids, the teacher knows if the kid's not doing the work or whatever, and they call home and, hey, what's going on? And they work their way through it. It's kind of like dividing and conquering all the kids is what we've done. So it's
Okay.
a big undertaking.
I believe it.
And
then
our
from-
teachers have done and it's hard.
and-
It's hard.
And that was the next question that I had in regards to the staff. In the past, a teacher would prepare lesson plans and do all that with the intention of their students are going to be in the classroom. Now they have to do that as well as
No,
also
but that,
prepare for the kids that
not
are outside.
also. That's how they're preparing.
So it's
There's no separate writing in a plan book anymore. This is how they're preparing everything.
okay.
They're not doing it twice.
So they're not doubling up on the amount of
No,
work that they
no.
need to do to.
No, unless they want to. And I think we do have teachers who are just not there yet. They have to do this, but they're just not ready to let go of this yet. But that's choice.
They're getting there.
Yeah, this is, go ahead. No, you go ahead.
Okay. Can't help myself.
Yeah.
The teachers are doing a really great job because this is like a big undertaking because essentially they're all first-year teachers. So they are learning a completely new thing for some of them because yes, they've integrated technology, but they haven't done it to this extent before. So a lot of them are very hard on themselves about this because all of our teachers, they want to be the very best that they can for our students. And so they're putting a lot of pressure on themselves. They're taking so much time, personal time to do all the work, but they are persevering, they're pushing through, they're planning online, they're doing the seesaw lessons, and the kids are doing seesaw whether they're in the classroom, they're at home. So it is hard for everybody involved, but day by day I'm getting less and less panic emails. So now it's just like, oh, what about this? And day by day everyone's getting more comfortable with it and they're understanding things more and it's making more sense and they're wrapping their heads around it. So it's going to be a slow process, and a lot of the teachers are like, well, I want to just know, I want to get it perfect, and we're trying to really say, like, give yourself a little bit of a break, and, like, just take it easy, and take it day by day, and learn day by day, take it baby steps right now, but they're very hard on themselves to make sure that they're doing their very best, so they can kind of get worked up a little, but they are improving, and they're doing a really great job. I'm so proud of them. I go into the different buildings and I can see how hard they're working and how much heart and effort they're putting into it, and like the tears sometimes because they just want to get it right, but they are working so hard to do their very best. I am so proud of them. Sorry, can't help myself.
question. Okay, so when you write lesson plans for math or reading, you write leveled lesson plans. So you have level, these children are in A, B, and C. So how does that work on Seesaw? Can you, and Schoology also, and whatever. Can you, does this lesson plan go out for this kid and then the other 10 are doing this lesson plan, or how does that work?
You can actually individually assign lessons with materials
Oh.
within both of them. Like, you can choose who's getting this lesson, who's getting this one. So if you wanted to escalate something a little more like enrichment and be like, oh, this kid's gonna be done with everything, so he can have this activity. I know ahead of time I'm gonna give him this and this. So you can choose who gets the activity.
So you can level your
Yes.
lessons, okay.
Anybody else? Okay. Matt, Corey, and Samantha, thank you very much for that, and thank you for all your leadership with this. There's a lot of hard work that's gone into this, obviously, and great job to all of you. So thank you. Okay, we'll move on to our first public comment period. Do we have anybody here tonight for public comment? Do we know? Nope. Nobody for public comment. Okay. Board President's communication. We did not have an executive session tonight, so we'll move right into our committee reports. First is the Comprehensive Plan and Curriculum and Professional Development Committee. Mr. DeLauder.
Okie dokie. So we started our evening out with Mrs. Weekland coming on and just giving us a really brief explanation of our different learning options, such as how our students are doing the 5 days, what a blended schedule looks like, and then again the full remote schedule, and then the difference between the full remote and Dover Cyber. And again, just a reminder, full remote is, again, as they said, students are actively engaged with a Dover school district classroom teacher, whereas a Dover Cyber is an outside teacher that Dover has contracted with to provide our educational opportunities for those students. And again, and then she also just did a really quick overview of the Seesaw and Schoology, which our three teachers did a fantastic job explaining that tonight. She then went into some of the things on the Dover Cyber and the cost savings for our district, and it kind of really stuck out to me. I just kind of did some really quick estimates. Right now, last year, our Dover Cyber Academy had 46 students enrolled in the class or in the school. This year, we're over 200 students. Average for our students this year for our cyber is $5,535 per student. If all those 200 plus students had gone to an outside cyber organization, we would be spending, and it cost us, I can't remember how much it was, but we'd be almost $3 million would be going out from our district to these cyber schools had these students not been in Dover. And then again, we talked a little bit about the cyber costs, and which kind of one of the things that kind of really irritated me. Regular education students, in general, on average, we spend $11,000 per student to send them to a cyber charter school, and that's just regular education. Special education students, $26,000 for each student that goes to an outside cyber charter. And again, that doesn't matter what their issues are. They can have a speech IEP, and they can charge us $26,000, which to me is just ludicrous and is highway robbery, in my opinion. So our representatives out there, you're listening, please take care of that. Next, Mrs. Johnson came on, and we talked a little bit about our staff, and how, again, we heard here that a lot of them are struggling. They're really being hard on themselves and really just being stressed out. And it's something that Mrs. Johnson talked about, and she said that self-care, and you tell the staff this, that self-care is a priority and a necessity. It's not a luxury. They got to start taking care of themselves to be able to do this. And as part of that, they've administering a survey every other month, and they're trying to figure out their satisfaction with their job, how burnout are they, and then any secondary traumatic stress that may be occurring with them. And through those surveys, they're finding those teachers who are maybe reaching their burnout level. And we do have several teachers that are approaching that. So those teachers are being identified and are being reached out to try and give them some ideas on how to, to alleviate some of that stress and help them deal with what's going on. And then the last thing we talked about was our universal behavioral screener that we, I believe it was last year we initiated that. Again, just talked about, I went back over the numbers from last year and again, just hit some of the last year highlights. Again, one of the things that I think we all were kind of concerned about last year was the percentages of our students who were showing signs of or symptoms of depression, which was 61% of our students. So we're looking at that. Again, we're using our 7th and 9th grade. We're going to do that universally through all students unless their parents opt out of that program. And then we are also going to use it on an as-needed basis for our students in 7 through 12. And again, the things that we're looking for, the risky behaviors, any suicidal ideations, those types of things. And then if they do see a critical issue with some of the students, then they're going to reach out and try and, again, get them the services needed for that. And then one other thing too, with this universal screener, each student is going to be debriefed that day by either a counselor or one of our social workers to, again, just to go over the survey and discuss any issues that may find out. And then finally, last thing we talked about was some curriculum documents that are going to be up for vote next month, and that's the social studies, and they were for grades 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And the thing about that was they were up for vote in March, and obviously we didn't have our meeting in March because of the shutdown, and it was one of those things that just kind of got overlooked in the time being. So we're going to be on the agenda on next month for that approval. And that was pretty much it.
Any questions for Mr. DeLauder?
Yes, I have one question. With Dover Cyber School, you said that costs us how much per student? Like 5 something?
$5,535 per student.
K through.
K to 5, right? Yeah, and then correct, and then 6 to 12. I'm sorry, it was $2,800 per student.
What's the difference between full remote learning and Dover Cyber School? Why aren't they just doing full remote learning? That doesn't cost us anything, right?
Nope. But we just had parents who wanted cyber school. So the cyber school doesn't use our teachers. It's a completely separate program we buy into. We enroll the student, and then the student is completely with them. And we don't even interact very rarely with the student. So I don't know. Parents just didn't want our teachers or didn't want a connection with the school. But it keeps them in the district, allows them to do extracurriculars, and costs us less than half of what an online cyber does. We have a lot of them coming back as well, because I'm not sure they realized exactly what that was going to be.
Yeah, because 46 to 200 is a big jump, and the only difference is they don't have interaction with our teachers. Seems
Yeah,
odd.
but they didn't want it. And we every child that we enrolled in the Dover Cyber, we had a conversation with, why don't you just do the blended? Why don't you just be part of a class? And they didn't want it. I think people think that if they're doing our Dover Cyber, they can, that they can log on when they want, do their work when they want, where if you're in blended, you have to log on with us when we want you to. So, but we do have kids coming back. But that was why we spent so much energy on our blended, because if we can get that right, I think we can have very few kids in cyber school in the future. I mean, I see this as the future, and we can do it that way. And it won't cost, you're exactly right, the district anything.
It's a start.
Yeah.
Chuck, what was that percentage again that you shared with that depression percentage of students that,
Yeah, last year, if you remember, when they did that, the universal screener, and Mrs. Johnson came in here and gave us those results, 61% of our students had exhibited symptoms of depression. And again, that was before all the COVID issues.
that all age groups, or was that a certain age level?
I believe that was 7 through 12.
I don't remember that number. That number seems
Ninth grade students took the survey, are the ones who get the screen.
ninth grade. But do we know, is that abnormally high for schools in general? Or, that seems like a really, really
It is,
high number.
and Mrs. Johnson actually relayed that to us, and I believe it was 30,
She said
30%.
Ninth grade,
Yeah.
And if you remember, 2 years ago, when we took our PACE survey, we brought Kirsten to share that information with you, and those numbers were high through that survey as well. That is abnormally high, and why we have put our time and energy and money into these programs and what we're doing with the kids.
Oh.
From elementary on, to help support them and give them skills and how to deal with things.
What kind of things would point in this survey, if you don't mind me asking? Like, what things would a person, what kind of things would you say or
I think they
participate
ask
in?
questions like, I am happy on most days, I'm not happy on most days, things like that. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
Anybody else? Okay, Mr. Deschaux, facilities and safe and supportive schools.
All right, we had two things. We get to talk about fun things. The middle school and high school opened up on Wednesday. The middle school, the kids were all dropped off. They were escorted to the football field where the teachers were there to meet and greet them, where they were taken and dismissed by classes into the building. The buses were out front, staggered, I guess, being dropped off that way. The only concern we had with the middle school drop-off and stuff was with the car riders. Unfortunately, all parents are entering in on the 74 alley side, so you have them going in through there. The morning, making the left onto it isn't that bad. It's trying, if you have a student who's in the high school, trying to make a left at that time of day onto 74 is a nightmare. Even just trying to turn into it, with myself coming from like 30 where I work at out there, you could not make a left into the alley. It was backed up to where people were actually doing U-turns on 74 between Canal Road and the alley to line up on that side of the road so they could get in. So there was a little bit of issues there, but hopefully we'll get that worked out. The high school side, that was actually pretty smooth. Today, unfortunately, the parents got stuck behind all of the students leaving, so the parking lot emptied out a lot faster than the parents, who were double laned, and we literally had to wait till the parking lot and the buses and everybody were gone. But I believe the principal even said she dismissed the car drivers too early, and they're hoping that'll fix any problems with that. Last week we had the elementaries go off. Dover Elementary and North Salem were all fine. Libe, they had some backed up cars onto, I believe that's Baker Road, for a little bit. Nothing major. It was never out onto Hemming Road or anything. Wagglestown, 3rd, 4th, and 5th car riders are being picked up at the church. Kindergarten, 1st grade, and 2nd grade are at the school, and there's no major issues there. Today, I think the high school's also having a couple of issues with getting the buses from the middle school to the high school. I think they arrived a little late today, but they're working on that. Let's see. No D10 activity for anything like that. Dave said they're just too busy to even try to get anything done with that. And that's all I have. Mr. Emming, anything to add?
Nope, that's fine.
Mr. Rolheiser?
Good report.
All right, that's it.
I just have a question. So we have that crossing guard between the high school and the middle school. Any talk or how do we go about getting a crossing guard for that problem at 74? Because I could see that being a potential issue for a lot of parents who want to drop their middle schooler off because they're trying to avoid the bus or they just want to drive their kids, and they drop them off at the middle school and then have to get around and within a 10-minute time span drop their high schooler off so that they're not late. So I feel like we need to do something. I mean,
We're talking, we also are thinking about a crossing guard at the high school with that road across the street because we had real backup there. But I think that was part of the issue this morning.
Yep.
So we are looking at that, but we also have parents who kind of are not following the plan, and we need to deal with that as well. So we are looking at that. We're looking at, could we get some more? We can work with the town on that, township on that.
thank you.
Anybody else? Okay. Thank you, Mr. Deschaux. Mr. Cook, Human and Fiscal Resources.
Good evening, everyone. We met this evening and had about three or four different items that we discussed. The first one was an update on the 2019-2020 audit process. Jen had informed us that we are about 90% complete now with the audit process. Everything is looking pretty good. Last month, if you recall, we had reported out that we were looking at a surplus, an expected surplus as a result of some less use of our Lincoln Benefits Trust and insurance claims and additional revenues that weren't anticipated of about $1 million. Since that time, it's come down a little bit. There has been additional claims now, which were sort of on hold because of the COVID situation and doctor's offices not being open. So there were some additional claims, but it's looking at like we're going to end up around 866,000. I believe you had said, Jen, is what the ending budget looks like it's going to be for last year. And just an update on the Lincoln Benefits Trust. We have a pretty healthy balance in there, and last year we had 2 funding holidays as part of the budget to try to work that down a little, that balance down a little bit. This year we also are two as well for this year planned, and as a result of the lesser claims, the balance is slightly down than what it was a year ago before this budget audit, and it's about $160,000 lower than what it was before. So even with the 2 funding holidays, it hasn't dropped a whole lot. So we haven't had a lot of claims, and hopefully that will continue. Next month, a representative from Boyer and Ritter will be here, and we'll have a presentation on the Tuesday night meeting next month, and then we'll approve the audit at our regular voting meeting. Our next topic was the Act 1 index. Normally by this time we kind of have parameters of what we can expect for the state Act 1 index. At this point in time, they have not gotten that information together yet, but PASBO's given us some guidance on what they feel is we can anticipate, and they're giving us guidance of around 3%. That's just the base adjusted index, or the base Act 1 index. The adjusted amount may be closer to 4%. So we should know probably, I would think, by next month at least where we're going to fall on that. Then the next topic we talked about was our budget timeline, our current anticipated budget timeline for 2021-22. Am I right on that? So we got 3 years going on at one time. So we're in the process of looking at the next year's budget. Last Tuesday night, we voted to approve the timeline, and the next steps will be to reach out to our staff members to kind of get their buy-in and get their staff packets of what their needs look like for that. So that's going to be the October part of that budget timeline. We had a very nice presentation from Kelly Renard, our food services coordinator, tonight about some of the things that are happening right now in our schools regarding food service, some things that we haven't experienced before. For example, right now with the current CARES Act and the USDA grant that has been afforded to all school districts as a result of that, basically every student that is in our buildings and every student that is doing any kind of online blended learning is eating for free, and that includes breakfast and lunch. So nobody is paying for breakfast or lunch, and beyond that, it's even available to community members who have children under the age of 18. So Kelly is planning to do a presentation, a video, that information can get out to the public. The intent will be to put it on our website, and in case any parents are watching tonight and their students come home and say, yeah, I ate breakfast for free, or I ate lunch for free, and they're thinking, wow, that can't be, it is true. And the parameters at this point, at least through December 31st, the parameters are there are no economic parameters. So it's basically available to everybody. So if nothing else gets out from her report tonight, it's important for everyone to know that our students are eating for free. Within that, there's a lot of exciting things happening both at the breakfast level and at the lunch level. And Kelly went into some discussion about some of those programs that are happening in our elementary and our secondary schools, and it's pretty exciting to see how the staff is working together, working hard to make these lunches and breakfasts available for students to get. The fun thing from a financial standpoint is that they're all reimbursable. So the more people that participate, the more reimbursement there is for the school district as a result. And so there's a lot of exciting initiatives and a lot of ways that schools are working to get these lunches and breakfasts into the hands of the students. And there's a lot of different things that are happening. So when she gets that report out on the website, it'll be exciting to go on there for everybody to see just exactly what's happening. And we had some really interesting and exciting kudos for her in her efforts, early on here to get these lunches, and this whole food services thing has taken on a whole different meaning since the COVID shutdown and even now. So there was been a little bit of pushback. Right now, the students are getting cold lunches. It's basically all contained meals. And the reason why she shared that she's doing that is because that's the easiest way, that's the most effective way, safest way to present them right now. The warm meals and the a la carte at the high school, that's going to be coming back, but right now it's strictly cold lunches, cold breakfast, that sort of thing. But there's a lot of options out there. How about it, Nate? There was a lot of things that our students have options to that makes your mouth water when you realize.
I'd like to go back to school for lunch.
So there's a lot of very positive things that are happening for the kids. The kids, everybody can eat, basically, regardless of financial situation. Everybody has the opportunity to eat. And then Christina gave us a staffing update. She shared a feel-good story. I don't know if you recall, but last year we had entered into a contract, I think it was OVR, that would allow our special needs students to get some on-the-job training, to learn some, as a result of having the ability to work alongside in a district like this and get some real work experience. We had a graduate that came through that program and is now a part-time custodian. So that contract is working, and we're seeing it play out. So beyond that, there's a lot of work right now going on with job postings. There's some higher level job postings, as you're well aware of. There's some staffing needs. There's some support staffing needs as well. In general, we're in pretty good shape, but it's a constantly evolving and necessary need for Christina to be on top of everything, is to get all these positions filled. So that's what I had. Nate, Amy, Jen, anything I might have missed?
I just wanted to add two things into the report, Steve. The first is I think Mrs. Lepo is going to come to the board with a recommendation for the surplus this year that will go into the capital reserves to replenish some of the funds that have been used from that area for the projects that we've had. So that will be coming our way. And then just to touch a little bit on the kudos that Steve was mentioning with Mrs. Renard, the kudos go out to those workers in the cafeterias as well, because she did tell us that in the very large new cafeteria at the high school, in the span of 8 minutes between lunch sessions, they had every single table sanitized, ready to go for the next group to come in. And within 5 minutes at the elementaries, they had them ready to go for the next group to come in. So they're really taking this seriously, making sure that our students are as safe as possible in this situation. So kudos to that staff as well for their hard work with that. So
We have a lot of people that are working very, very hard in a new environment that we're not used to.
Yeah.
Steve, I have a question. So with the food service, I think it's great that everybody gets free lunch, free breakfast. I mean, that's something the USDA has been pushing, and that's awesome. I guess my question is, I'm thinking of the middle schoolers and the high schoolers more in particular, and I don't know what their meals look like on a tray. But I know right now we're not offering a la carte. And I'm thinking of some of the, every child has different nutritional needs. And especially our student athletes. And when they have maybe an 11 o'clock lunch at the high school and they're getting, whatever is included in the free lunch, a sandwich, an apple, milk, whatever. For some of our athletes who in the past might have bought 2 lunches, what are we doing to kind of help supplement that? Are we going to go to a la carte in addition to the free lunch at some point so that these students can get the extra? Are we going to encourage them to bring extra from home?
I know we are at the high school. I'm not sure at the middle school. I can check on that. But I will tell you, for these first couple days of school, these packaged lunches saved our life, with the first couple days getting kids in, seated, social distancing and all of that. But I can definitely check into that and see where we are with that. I think she is. I think it was just to get us started and see how things went. We didn't even know our numbers. We didn't even know we were serving lunch to everybody until last week. So, as everything comes out last minute right now, but I can definitely check with her.
I know other school districts are offering that. And their students are taking advantage of it, so.
She did share that some of the numbers early on, and I guess from the surveys, asking the parents how many students would be participating in lunch, those numbers were low. It turns out that there's more people participating than what they had anticipated, so they had to scramble for that. But she did share that a la carte and warm meals, it is her expectation they will be coming back into play. She gave a targeted time frame of late October to do that, and like Tracy said, she was concerned about students waiting in line and in close proximity, and this made it simpler to kind of get her feet wet and get the feel for how it's looking. So as far as the athletes, I'm not sure. We didn't talk at all about that.
Kids are missing the hot meals. We absolutely know that, but yeah, we'll get there. So I will check on the a la carte at the middle school.
All right, thank you.
Anybody else? Okay, thank you, Mr. Cook. Okay, Mrs. Kroom, Superintendent's report.
I have nothing new except just to say these 2 days for the middle school and high school went about as well as they could have gone to start the school year. And I think if you asked anyone in the buildings, they would agree with that. We had one teacher who said after 15 years of first days at the middle school, this was the smoothest first day she's ever had. Well, that speaks volumes. So yeah, it's been a great beginning of the school year, and that's huge thanks to the middle school and high school administrative team. They've both done a great job.
Any questions for Mrs. Kroom? Okay, miscellaneous period for any other comments from our board members tonight. Anybody have anything? I'd just like to thank Mrs. Lepo and Mrs. Allman. We successfully navigated our first meeting on our own here, so good job. I appreciate your help with that. So, Okay, last public comment period. Mr. Perkins, have any friends shown up in the hallway for you, or are you still lonely out there? Okay, you're still lonely. All right. All right, future meetings. Our next board meeting will be Tuesday, October 20th at 7 p.m. That will be a live stream meeting again. Our committee meetings will be Thursday, October 22nd at 6 via Zoom, and our board planning meeting will be that same evening at 7 p.m. Live stream like tonight. So if there's no further business, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
Second?
We have a motion and a second. All in favor, aye?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? We're adjourned. Thank you.